and welcome back to Baking with Mrs. Myles. I hope everyone's staying safe and washing their hands. Today we're baking one of my oldest daughter's absolute favorite things, tea biscuits. Now the recipe I use is a copycat KFC tea biscuit recipe. When I was younger, we used to travel a lot down to Maine and we would always stop at KFC, and their tea biscuits were one of my absolute favorite things in the world. So that's what we're making today. What you are going to need is you're going to need flour, you're going to need some salt, you're going to need some sugar, you're going to need some baking powder and baking soda, you're going to need some shortening. I use all vegetable shortening, and you're going to need some milk, which is right here. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to grab our bowl and add all the dry ingredients together. So the very first ingredient is 2 cups of flour. One, two. And the second ingredient is 1.5 teaspoons of salt. So we're going to get 1.5 teaspoons, 1.5 teaspoons. The third ingredient, is 1 tablespoon of sugar. Grab a tablespoon and put that in there. Now we need 4 teaspoons of baking powder. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. And we need 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. So that's all the dry ingredients. So we're going to take our spatula and just give it a little mix. Now, the next thing you need to add is the 1/4 cup of shortening. So we're going to do something called cutting this in until it looks like sand. So we're going to pop that in. And I like just to mix it up a tiny bit so it's in there. And you could do this a couple of different ways depending on what you have. I like to use a pastry cutter. You can use a potato masher. You can use a couple different forks, however it is you want to do it. There's no wrong way. So you take whatever you're using and you just sort of squish it in. So we're not really mixing it, but we're more cutting it in. And you're going to notice that you start getting some of those chunks. So you want it as small as possible and as through as possible, because this is what gives it the nice little flakiness of a tea biscuit. Do you see how that's starting to look a bit like sand? So once you're satisfied with that, I got a little piece there. Once you're satisfied with that, we're going to add the milk in. Now, you can use almond milk, rice milk, anything like that if you're going for dairy-free. So I'm using almond milk today. And so we add in 1 cup of milk. Now, the secret to a good tea biscuit is not overmixing, because you want the big chunks of the fat in there to make it flaky. So we're going to add this in. And we're going to stir it gently until we start getting a dough. See how it's starting to come together there? And once you get to a point that we can start kneading this by hand, we're gonna do that. So now that we got it sort of mixed together, this is the fun part of Tbscuits. We're gonna knead this. So you need to have a spot to knead it with. We're gonna take a little bit of flour and we're just gonna sprinkle it over there so it doesn't stick. You don't want too much. We're also going to need to cut something with I'm getting tongue-tied. We're going to need something to cut the Tbscuits out with. So I'm using a cup here because everybody here likes really big Tbscuits, but you can make them whatever size you want. So I'm just gonna put a little bit of flour there because you're gonna wanna flour the outside of the cutter. So now we just take the biscuit mix. I'm gonna flop her right out. Some of it is still a little sticky because it's not completely mixed together. Now, you only want to do this maybe 10 times because like I said, you don't want it too mixed up. 2, 3. You need a little bit more flour, that's okay. 4, 5, 6. 7, 8, 9, 10. So this is what your dough should look like. Now, if you have a rolling pin, now's a good time to grab it. I have mine in here. And you're gonna wanna roll this dough out to be about 1/2 inch thick. So flour up your rolling pin. And we're gonna go. If you notice it starts to get stuck, just add a bit more flour. So that's looking about 1/2 inch thick there. So you take whatever you're cutting it with, and we're just gonna make some biscuits. Now, since I make really big biscuits, this recipe doesn't make a whole lot. But if you're making smaller biscuits, you should be able to easily get a dozen or so out of this. We're going to put those right onto a prepared pan. And we're just going to keep going until we're out of dough. So now that you have everything rolled and cut out, we're going to take a little bit of milk in a pastry brush, and we're just going to put a little bit of milk on the top of these, just to help brown them up. That's looking good. All right, then we're going to throw them in the oven for about 10 minutes. So I have my oven preheated to 400 degrees, and I'm going to throw these in for about 10 minutes. Now, it could be anywhere between 8 to 10 minutes, a little bit longer. I use stoneware to bake everything, so I typically have to add about 2 minutes to my baking time. So I'm going to go for about 10 minutes. So it's been about 20 minutes. They're taking longer to cook today than what they normally do. So let's check them and see. Oh, look at that. Those are nice golden brown. So we're gonna take these over and we're gonna do our very last step to them. So the very last step for these is we need to take a pastry brush and we're gonna take some butter and we're just gonna put a little bit on the top. Oh, yum. I wish you guys could smell these. So we're just gonna baste them with a tiny bit of butter. And that's everything. What do you think, Mr. Mackenzie? Do you think they look good? Well, that's everything for Tbsp. I hope you guys had fun. Please continue to stay safe and wash your hands. And please know I miss you very, very much. And I can't wait to get back to school to see everybody. All right, till next time.